Mystic Raven. All right, guys. So there's been a lot of changes with Horns of the Reach. We know this. Why? Viper's taking a big hit, guys, for the Nightblades, and these Sorcerers are coming out in packs. Yeah, it's pretty real. It's a threat to Cyrodiil. We need to take care of this. There's not enough fear in the Nightblades anymore. But I have come up with a build thanks to my fellow subscribers yesterday. Wanted to get hitting on it, and I'm really happy with this build. It works out very nice, and I think a lot of Nightblades are going to be really happy with this build. This is the Red Rogue. Alright, guys, so let's go ahead and get into the character sheet. Alright, so I'm in Cyrodiil, just so I can get all my health buff applied. So currently I'm sitting at 21,000 max health. Max stamina is 33,602. Stamina recovery is 2,043. And weapon damage is 1,987. Weapon critical is 55.8. To the left, you're going to go ahead and see I have all my points allocated into stamina, and I'm running the Lover Mundus. Now, on two-hander side, you're going to go ahead and see, once again, my max health is 21,000. Stamina recovery's 2,043. Max stamina is 33,602. Weapon damage on this side is 2,600, and weapon critical has slightly dropped to 48.8. All right, so that is a big hit on the two-hander, but I will get into everything and explain what I'm doing here. All right, so let's go over the sets real quick. Okay, I'm not going to be running a monster proc set with this build, right? This build is not designed to, kind of be cheesy. It's supposed to be well-rounded and, better yet, combatant shield stackers, and especially, yes, those nasty little sorcerers. And it's what it does. So, I'm going to be using the Gladiator set stacked with Shieldbreaker. And I'm going to be using the Krog's Pauldrons. So let's go over piece by piece and explain what I'm doing here and what these sets do. First, Gladiator set. What this does, this is a Kvatch Gladiator. You craft this. It's a craftable set. I forget, in the Golden Coast, so you can go craft it over there, right? It gives weapon critical, weapon damage. When your target is under 25% health, it adds 1,722 weapon damage to your light and heavy attacks. Please keep that in mind. It's very important. I'm also going to be using Shieldbreaker. What Shieldbreaker does, a lot of people know what this is, but some of you may not. You get this down Imperial City, right? Off of the Telvar vendors. You can't buy it direct. You have to get the boxes to get the Shieldbreaker set. So if you're getting your Telvar for your IC event and you're a stamina user, this set could really come in handy for you, because it gives you max stamina, stamina recovery, weapon damage. When you deal damage with a light or heavy attack against a player with a damage shield, you deal an additional 2,490 oblivion damage to them. That is unpreventable, right? There's nothing preventing that damage. No shield, nothing. It's going through, regardless. So, let's go over piece by piece. Gladiator bow, infused. That's right. Lift oblivion damage. I'm going to stack the oblivion damage effect. So I want this infused because I want to go ahead reduce the cooldown timer, right? That's what I want to do, especially when I'm doing light attacks. I'm going to be using the Maw of Gladiator, right? I'm not going to be using the enchantment because the Maw ignores 20% of their target's physical resistance. So if I'm getting in a melee skirmish or if I need to gap close, I got the Maul. It's going to do its job. I'm going to be using the maiming poison because let's be honest. Now keep this in mind. I do have this. If you're going to ask what trade I have it in, though, I have it in Nirnholm. Why? Because I need that extra weapon damage. I'm not running Hundings, right? I'm not running any other set that gives me the increased weapon damage. The Nirnholm is going to be essential on this bar, all right? But the enchantment is typically Crushers if I run out, but I'm going to be using Maiming Poison on this. Why am I going to use Maiming Poison? Simple. If I'm going to get in a melee fight at any time, I want to reduce my target's damage output. I'm also going to drain health from them. It's going to deal a poison, and it's going to give me a heal tick. Also, what it's going to do, inflict them again with the minor fracture, right? Reducing their physical resistance, and then I gain physical resistance. So yeah, this poison works out really nice for the proc when I go in. I love it. Now let's go ahead. I'm going divine pieces on this guy. So I want the divine head of Shield Breaker. Why do I want the divine? Because I'm running the lover. I need extra penetrating value. Typically I go infused, but since I'm in Cyrodiil, people are going to stack resistance. I want to capitalize on more penetration. So I'm going to go divine helmet. I'm going to go divine chest. I'm going to go with the light. Now keep this in mind. The chest is heavy. My shoulders are light. I want that undaunted metal. That's already, I want that passive. I want that extra 6%. This is going to be Impen, Glyph Max Stamina Ideal. Why the Krogs? Simple. Physical penetration. I want my physical pen up. Also Gladiator Belt, Stamina, Impen. Bracers of Shield Breaker. This is supposed to be Impen, but currently I have Invigorating. It's frustrating, but it works for now. Pants, Gladiator Guards, Divine. Once again, I want to capitalize on the Lover Mundus. And of course, Gladiator Boots, Impen, Stamina. And of course, I have the Shield Breaker Necklace, Glyphed Recovery, Shield Breaker Ring, Glyphed Weapon Damage, and another ring, Glyphed Weapon Damage. Right? I could go ahead and take the Warrior, but once again, I need penetrating value. But I'm actually going to get more with the 2 jewelry slots. I could put in another one, but my recovery would drop. So if you want less recovery and you want a little bit more weapon damage, you can go ahead and do that. That's fine. But I like recovery. I like to be able to move in and out, and especially against strains. That's my preference. That's my play style. But that's up to you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the skills really quick. Pretty basic format here. So we're going ambush. You know, it's going to go ahead, flash through the shadows, ambush an enemy, dealing 6,494 physical damage and stunning them for 2 seconds. Also grants me Empower, increasing the damage of my next attack by 20%. Follow-up attack, surprise attack, slash an enemy, dealing 8,408 physical damage, inflicting them with major fracture, which reduces their physical resistance by 5,280. And of course, I'm going to be using the reverse slice. If you want to go executioner, you can. The only reason I like, the reverse slice is because if I have multiple targets in front of me, they take a percentage of the damage hit. That's the only reason I like it. Plus, my light attack increase after 25% is hitting for just as much as this ability. If not a little more, actually. The heavy attack. Light attack, I'm getting about the same with the Gladiator. It's pretty gross, actually, guys. It's nasty. So I will go ahead and hit this. Hit up with the light attack under 25 and hit this once. Hit it again. Hit the weave. They're dead. So I don't need it. You know, the extra damage. Also, no surprise, resolving vigor, need some self-sustains. I'm going to use Camouflage Hunter. That's going to go ahead and give me my major savagery. Also, it's going to give me a boost of minor berserk for 6 seconds if when I'm in crouch position. On this bar, I'm going to use Flawless Dawnbreaker. Why? Because Wild Slot's going to go ahead and give me increased weapon damage by 5%. So keep in mind, I don't have Hundings. I'm not using a monster set. I need to capitalize from this. Plus, I'm getting the passive in Slayer, in Fighters Guild for Slayer, increasing my weapon damage for each Fighter Guild ability slotted. On this, the bow side, Shadowy Disguise, just go ahead, allows me to drop back in and pop them on the bar swap. So I'm getting that stun effect. I'm getting that, also the critical damage boost. So I don't really care if my crit is that high on this side. All I have to do is drop stealth, get the crit bonus, and then drop over. Okay? Pretty easy. Also, I'm going to be using a poison injector. No surprise here. I'm going to be doing light attacks, especially against those sorcerers. Sorcerers run range game. I need range capability. So I want to go ahead, hit the poison injector. Once the dot applies, it lies underneath the shield. They can shield all day. They can go ahead and heal all day. If they don't go ahead, if they don't have a form of cleanse, poison damage still applies the tick. You can't change that. That's a good rule of thumb. So I'm going to go ahead and use the poison injector. But to make it even more frustrating for players, this is why I like lethal arrow. Lethal arrow always applies the poison status effect. So between both abilities, I'm double layering the dot effect. And it deals a shitload of damage. So once I hit them with this, hit them with that, they get the oblivion damage from the enchantment. If they're running a shield, they're getting additional oblivion damage. Then on top of it, my light attacks are going to go ahead and deal an additional X amount of damage because I'm running Gladiator. Works out great. Also, Relentless Focus. It's going to give me the Minor Berserk, right? Increasing my damage by 8% and my stamina recovery by 10% for 20 seconds. While active, hitting an enemy with 5 light or heavy attacks changes the abilities Assassin to Scourge, dealing disease damage, right? I need a form of debuff, especially against healers and tanks and so on and so forth. So I want to go ahead and debuff the fuck out of these dudes. So keep in mind, between this ability and my surprise attack, I have my debuffs applied. Right? Now, if you didn't want to go ahead and use lethal arrow, you can put, the fear in there for CC, but I like the range game, so I usually hit up the range game, then go in. That's me. That's my playstyle. Also, once again, I'm going to use the Camouflage Hunter, but on this bar, I'm not going to use the Ballista. The reason being, the light attacks are acting like my finisher. So, by the time they're 25%, if I'm on both side and I do a heavy attack, it's dealing, Jesus, I was getting 12k hits on fully impen dudes last night on a fully charged. Even my lights were dealing between 4 and 5 depending. But it was noticeable with Gladiator. Really, really good. So I like the incapacitating strikes on this bar because I could go ahead, swap over, and then if I'm on single target, I can go ahead and incapacitate them for 70 ultimate, and also it goes ahead and applies the Major Defile, which reduces their healing by 36%. So it's really nice. Really like it. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the champion points here. Okay, so I don't have any in the Apprentice, so we'll start over with the Astronaut. Okay, I want 75 points in this tree. There's no debate about it. I have to have 75 points in this tree. Why? The Butcher. I'm going to be doing a lot of light and heavy attacks, especially with Shield Breaker and Gladiator. I want to capitalize on the Butcher. Why? Because it gives me 5% additional damage when they're below 25%. So the Gladiators give me the boost already. Then I'm getting another 5% from the Butcher. Well, duh. Why in the fuck would I not want this passive? Of course I do. I'm going to take it. Also, I'm going to go ahead and put 12.10 into Physical Weapon Expert. I'm going to be weaving a lot more, so I want to capitalize on that. But keep in mind that I'm going to also be losing damaging because I'm not using Hundings, right? So I'm going to be losing upfront damage, so I have to go ahead and redirect a lot of my points at the Master at Arms. I don't want to be too weapon dependent. So I want a nice cohesiveness between my weaving and my abilities. So a lot more points are going to go in Master at Arms, but I want to definitely capitalize on Physical Weapon Expert. Going into the Ritual, we're going to put 76 points into Mighty. Why? Because everything derives from this. Everything. My dot damage, my direct damage, everything derives from Mighty. But I don't want to put too much because diminishing return, but we have it at 1407 for the sticklers. Piercing. Once again, it's all about penetration in Cyrodiil. I can't stress that. Stamina users already have a hard enough time with penetration. But using the Krogs, using the Lovers, I still want a shitload of penetration. So I'm going to put 69 points into Piercing. I have nothing in the Precise Strikes or nothing in the Thermaturge. A lot of people are going to be like, why don't you have anything in the Precise Strikes? Well, that's simple. People wear friggin' impen. They're going to be going ahead and cutting the amount of critical damage they take. A lot of people would argue, well, that's why you should put it in there. No, I want to increase the base damage. That's where it's going to hurt them. They can't, Impen's not going to go ahead and negate that, right? Base damage can only be negated by physical resistance. Hence why I need penetration, and I want to increase the base damage, and consequently, it will also increase some critical damage. So there you have it. I'm going to go 28 into Ironclad, reducing my direct damage taken. And I'm going to go ahead 58 points into resistance. Why? Need that resistance. People like to deal a lot of damage. And with the impen pieces I have, and since I'm running some divine, I need more. So yeah, I'm going 58 points into resistance. Also, Hardy is 10.15. Elemental Defenders 1407. Quick recovery is at 4.22. I'd like to have this a little higher, but like I said, I'm going resistance, so I need a little bit of healing received because I'm using vigor. Siphoner. I want to capitalize on this every day, all day. Why? I'm using light and heavy attacks, guys. Every time I'm going to go ahead and deal a heavy or a light attack, I'm going to also reduce my target's recovery by 8.12%, by 8% for 3 seconds. That's every time I deal. So if I'm continuously weaving light attacks, guess what? It's going to keep reapplying, and it's going to diminish their recovery rate by 8%. Spreader, 5%, 5.42. Warlord, reduce the cost to break freeze by 9%. Tenacity, I do have some in this, just so if I do a heavy attack, I have a high-end regen. I don't need a lot of tenacity, but I do have some, just in case I start, dropping down low. Mooncalf, 1407. Healthy is at 909. And Befoul, right? You saw that my Defile is 36%. One of the main reasons it's so high is this right here, Befoul. It reduces the effectiveness of their healing. I'm decreasing their healing by 23%. I want to take care of those tanks and healers. They're a pain in my ass, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reduce the hell out of their healing. I'm going to debuff them, and I'm going to hit them. By the time it's done, there's not enough heals that's going to save their asses, right? They better know their play style. They better have more than heals to go ahead and survive. They better have skills. So that's what this is about right here. Use Befoul if you're a Stamina Nightblade every day, all day. Okay, that's how the champion points are set up. So it's a pretty good build. Pros and cons. I'm going to get into this. So this is going to be my little disclosure. Against your average players, if you're a skilled player with this build, you're going to wreck a lot of people regardless. But this build, sorcerers are just going to get melted. There was not one sorcerer killed me last night when I was testing this. I was playing around with different configurations, and you know how they do that hunting curse and fury and then the frag. I got my shit off and them dead before they could hit their frag. It was just gross. It was nasty. It was really fucking nasty. I really loved it. I was enjoying this build against the range games a lot. Unfortunately, wardens, stun effects. Unblockable birds was a pain in my ass. I don't play Nightblade as often as some of you guys. So, got to take into effect some of those like turns and stuff and put them in a position. But what you do, once you get on top of them, you're good to go. Dragon Knights, it was kind of touch and go. I think that was the most challenging aspect for me, was some of the DK builds. But other Nightblade builds, not much of a problem, really. It's all about each individual player in that aspect. So if you go head-to-head against another Nightblade, it's all about, your skill as a Nightblade. So I'll say that. Win some, lose some, it's all skill-based when you're going head-to-head with another Nightblade. Cloaking Wars is real, though, when you're doing Stamina Nightblade fights. Who can pop who first and who can keep, running up their stealths and timing. It's a little bit of more of an annoying fight when you're going against Stamblades. But other than that, it was solid. Tanks, no problem. Healers, no problem. Sorcerers, dead to rights. Every day, all day. Every time they hit a shield, every time I would see Inferno Guardian, I'm like, that dude is so mine. and for sure he was. There was no sorcerer living through this build. So, yeah, great. I love this build. If you have any questions, comments, cons though, and I will say this is cons, you're going to suffer a little bit in that upfront damage when you're going with the melee because you're not running huntings, but the light attacks, once you get them down with the animation cancellation, makes it so well worth it. It's worth the sacrifice, guys. So, in my opinion. But yeah, that's one of the only biggest cons. So if you don't want to go ahead with Gladiator and you want to go with huntings, you can do that. I just like it because against the sorcerers and against the range game, Gladiator definitely was impressive. Very impressive. I was happy. So, yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please post below. I do want to thank you guys for watching, and once again and always, have a nice day.